Hey everybody, Mr. Dennis here. Welcome back to Studio Zero. This will be the first of a series of drawing lessons that I'm going to be putting together to make sure that people can learn how to draw. This series of videos is going to be covering things like upside down drawing, grid drawing, blind contour, and all kinds of other skills that you can practice in order to become better at the skill of drawing. A lot of the activities that I'm going to be recording are based loosely and sometimes more tightly to a book called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, which is a book that came out a long time ago by an author and a brain research person by the name of Betty Edwards. Since then, some of the brain research they did to discover how people learn drawing has been disputed, changed, but at the core of it, a lot of the activities that were put into that book became a great model for how to teach anyone how to draw. And that's one of the things that I want to talk about really quickly is I have a complete belief that nearly everyone can learn how to draw. If you look at the amount of time that we spend on educating kids in math, writing, science, all of those core subjects, and then you look at how much time we spend on drawing instruction, it is no surprise that students end up feeling like they can't draw. We don't spend the same amount of time on it. So if given the proper instruction, given the proper skill building activities, students eventually learn that they can actually, in fact, draw. The majority of them, the same way that the majority of students can learn how to do math or science or writing or reading or any of those other things. The thing that we're going to be doing today is upside down drawing. We are going to use the activity straight out of Betty Edwards' book called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. We are going to be doing a drawing of a guy that's very famous and well known named Igor Stravinsky. Okay, Igor Stravinsky was a famous composer, a musician, and happened to be friends with a guy named Picasso. This particular drawing was actually done by Picasso. We are going to take that drawing and dissect it and teach people how to draw using that drawing. So, we'll switch over, follow along, do it yourself. So we have our printed picture of Mr. Igor Stravinsky by Picasso. We've got a blank piece of paper that we're going to be drawing on. And what we're going to do in order to make a copy of this drawing essentially is we are going to flip Igor upside down. And we're going to do that with a couple of things in mind. We are merely trying to copy the shapes of the lines on this piece of paper. It's not really a picture of Igor Stravinsky. The lines end up making it look like a picture of somebody. Which actually goes back to the first thing that you did when you first learned how to hold a pencil and first learned how to make shapes. One of the first things that we learn how to do once we hold a pencil is we actually learn how to write letters. And writing letters actually involves looking at the shapes of the letters on the paper and then copying those shapes. And then we assign them names, A, B, C, D, all the way through Z. So, as I'm drawing this, one of the things that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be trying to simply copy the lines rather than trying to label the things. So I'm not going to look at this as part of the leg. I'm going to copy the shape of this line and this line and this line. Now, keep in mind, one of the things that's going to happen as I draw is I may not get things exactly the right size. The big thing I'm going to be looking for is shape. Okay, I can do some visual measuring as I go, but I'm going to essentially try to get things in the right place, right shape, right size. Okay, so I know I need to start right about here. I'm going to start with this line right here. It's a nice big long line. It's got a little curve to it. I'm going to draw that line. Just copy it the way it looks. There's another one right beside it. It's a little short. I'm visually measuring what the distance is here. I'm looking at this curve shape. It almost touches the other one. Comes this way. So I'm just looking at the shapes of lines as I do this. There's these two lines over here that break away. I'm looking at the angle of those and the length of those. And this line next. So you can see where I'm looking each time. This line almost connects, breaks away at this angle right here. I come back here. I don't want to work too far up on one side versus the other side, because if I do, things aren't going to connect. So I want to work across and gradually work my way up to where I need to be. I'm looking at the top of this is right across from this. Notice one of the things that I'm doing is I'm not saying what it looks like or what I think it is, like it's his coat. I am just looking at the shape of the lines and trying to make a good copy of them. And if I end up a little bit off, that's okay. We'll call them Bob Ross's happy little mistakes. And across we go with these two lines. Notice I'm not worried about if this is absolutely perfect. I'm also not going to turn this over and look at it until I'm done. I don't want to wreck the mindset that I've gotten myself into. That mindset is a large part of what I need to keep. I'm going to look at where this is versus this over here. I know that that's got to end somewhere in there. There's this line that goes right up here, ends in about the same place. This one that comes off the side goes up like this and over, and comes back. I'm looking at where it is across. I'm a little bit off, but that's going to be okay. I'll come back and make these two lines right here. And this one. And then I'm going to start coming back and making all these lines right in here. I'm going to go ahead and speed up the film so we can keep on going at a different speed. Now I picked up the pace on that video for a little bit. It took me about 12 or 15 minutes to actually cover all that space. And I felt myself drift in and out of the right state of mind. There's lots of places where I can show examples of that, where it's not quite exactly like the original. And that's something that will naturally happen as you do a drawing like this. But keep in mind, what you're doing is you're training your brain to get in the right frame of mind to really pay attention to the shapes of things rather than labeling them like things like hands, or a face, or its tie, or cufflinks, or any of those things. By staying in the right frame of mind, when you flip this over, you end up with something that still looks a whole lot like the original, even if it's a little bit off. I notice his shoulders are a little uneven. That naturally happens sometimes. I worked a little more on one side before I worked on the other. That happens. What this does, though, is it builds a skill for being able to pay attention to what you're seeing rather than thinking about what the object is. By thinking about what the object is, you're preventing yourself from actually seeing what it really looks like. And that is the key to all of this, is seeing what is actually there rather than what you think it should look like. So, give this a try. show me your examples. Send them to me. You're welcome to send them to my email if you can find it. My students, of course, they have it. But I would love to see examples of this. If you want other drawings like this to use, there are lots of other blind contour or upside down contour drawings out there that you can work off of. So get out there, try this.